it was that month or the next month that a switch flipped for me, and I doubled my income. I hit executive, like all the things fell into place. But honestly, I felt like I stopped chasing.
Hey guys, Val Nichols here. And imagine if you were a teenager, you're sitting there and all of a sudden you realize that you are pregnant. And you look at this and you realize that, in 9 months, you're going to have this beautiful baby that you're going to bring into the world. And you make a solid commitment to yourself that you are not going to let being a teenage mom define you and define your future. Today's guest did exactly that. Fast forward, she went on to build a successful corporate career, then transitioned into having a brick and mortar business, which then transitioned into being in network marketing, where she not only had wild success in that, she built in 1 year, she became the top 1% in her company. She's gone on to become a hypnotherapist. She's gone on to create a beautiful mindset business where she now offers one-on-one coaching to help transform women's lives. It is my honor and my privilege to introduce today Erin Nicole Call. Erin, welcome.
Thank you so much. That was like, I could feel that. I could totally feel that. I feel like you did such a great job of introducing me. So thank you so much. Hello, you guys. How are you? I'm so excited to be here. Like she said, that's kind of been my journey. She pretty much hit the nail on the head. I now run a coaching business, and I'm the creator and founder of Soul Naked CEO, which is a personal development movement with the focus on peeling back the layers of who you were told you needed to be and really step into who you were truly created to be. I work a lot around mindset, energy, manifestation, and as she said, I'm a hypnotherapist. So that's all.
I love that. I love that you said peeling back the layers of who you're meant to be, because, I too had wild, awesome success in corporate world, but realized that even though I had all the things, the paycheck, the car, the whatever, things on the outside looked great. And, people are thinking like, wow, this woman has it all, but I'd come home at night and feel empty.
Yeah. Actually just did a podcast interview this morning with someone that I've known for decades. I actually knew her probably since I was, I've known her since I was an early teen. And same thing, she had had a ton of success. And she's like, I started crying to my husband the last few months, where I was like, something's not right. Like it's like the knock on the door of your soul. I always say, like, it's a little knock and it's like, hey, listen. And then all of a sudden it becomes like a kicking down the door. And then it becomes like this raging inferno where things you either start to listen or things begin to kind of fall apart and crack wide open, almost quote unquote, like forcibly making you listen to what you truly want. Because I don't believe we live in an or universe. Okay, you can have the success or the happiness. I think really our job is to say, like, who I truly am and who I was put here to be is about it's about both.
I love that. That's one of my mottos too, that it's not an either or, it's how do you create that and? And I think that's really hard for, you also talk about, in your early journey, how really getting out of your own way and letting go of that control. I laugh because this was a huge struggle for me too. Hiring teams, going bigger, expanding, everything has been about letting go of control and creating that and conversation. Like, do you remember a moment where you realized, like, wow, I don't have to choose between being a mom or being a corporate woman or being an entrepreneur or living my soul passion, being the naked CEO? I can have it all. Do you remember a moment?
Yeah. Many. I call them line in the sand moments. It's funny because I was actually just reading a book. A lot of the times midday, I like to kind of stop and recenter. And I was outside and I was reading a book and it was talking about that. It was talking about, how essentially you don't have to choose, right? And I think, and I was talking about really surrendering and leaning back, and the only time we feel like we need to chase things is when we feel like we're in competition. Really, if you look at it, like there's no separateness, but that's what in our physical human experience we often feel. But one specific time comes to mind, and it comes to mind because I can remember where I was having this conversation. I had promoted fairly quickly in my network marketing business, and then I hit a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of quote unquote like pacing partners or whatever they called it with a few of the other leaders on our team in our company. And I was walking the kids to the park one afternoon, and I remember one of the girls said, "Hey, can I call you?" I said, "Sure, yeah, the kids are playing, we can talk." So I'm sitting there and we're talking, and I remember her saying, "Are you okay?" And I was like, huh. Whoa. And my initial reaction was, does it look like I'm trying too hard? I like remember saying that and thinking that. And she's like, no, no, no. But I know you're like always working and you're always doing all the things and you're like, you work harder than all of us. And I was like, my reaction at that point was like, okay, does she know who I am? Does she know that like, I'm not going to fall apart. I'm fine. Like I can do all the things. Of course I'm working hard. Like I want the things, you know? And I remember her saying something like, I don't think it's about what you're doing. I think it's about who you're being. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, I am chasing. And did that feel good? Like it felt exciting maybe in the beginning, right? But chasing something doesn't actually feel good, because what you realize is that then you will always be chasing something. And then it's literally like a rat race, right? And honestly, I remember, I think it was that month or the next month that a switch flipped for me. Mm-hmm. And I doubled my income. I hit executive, like all the things fell into place. But honestly, I felt like I stopped chasing. And I don't know that her conversation with me was part of the catalyst to that or what, but I just remember thinking, okay, chasing, and I know this, but do I embody this? Chasing is not the answer.
I love that, because, you know, that really hits home for me. And that also, you know, I'm thinking about the women who are watching this right now. I know that a lot of, you know, my clients are all very similar backgrounds with the corporate world, where I feel like even, you know, in school, in the world, like we're kind of trained. Our conditioning is to think that we have to hustle, we have to grind, we have to do all these things, to the point where I know in my own story and a lot of the women I work with, we almost feel this like level of guilt when we're not working, when we're just taking it easy. And something that I love about your story, I'm just fascinated about your story, is you had said something about the moment you hit, like you were clicking on your screen in your multi-level marketing company, your network marketing company, you were clicking, waiting to see if you had reached that level where you were trying to hit the top 1%. And you said something that like, oh my gosh, I was like, ooh, that hits me on a soul level. The fact that the moment you clicked and you saw you made it, your first instant thought was, oh, how am I going to maintain this?
It's so funny that you say that, because I'm like, I say things and sometimes I just channel things and they come out. And I remember feeling that. I don't remember saying that. So I love that you know that I said that. Yes, because it was built on a deck of, are we allowed to swear? No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Go for it.
Built on a deck of fucking cards. It was like, I always use this Jenga example of like, you know, you create this tower, and then all of a sudden you're like, if you remove one little piece, you're so afraid the whole thing is going to fall down because it wasn't sustainable in the first place. And yeah, so that was my initial reaction, was like, oh, is this sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, even what you said, like we're taught to chase the things. We're taught to struggle for success. We're taught to this self-sacrificial concept of like, I sacrifice my happiness, I sacrifice my time in order to make it, and then I can have the time and the freedom. And the reality is if that's the way in which we build the things, you're never going to give yourself permission to have the time or the freedom or the joy, because you're going to be on to the next thing, because there's always a next thing, which there's nothing, I don't believe that there's anything wrong. There's always going to be a next level, of course. And that's beautiful, and that's growth. That's like our natural state of being. But not when we're chasing something outside of ourselves.
Yes, I love that. And it sounds like a lot of your message is about, you know, not like looking at the external things, but really going deep with your vision and getting so hooked on to what is it you really want underneath all the conditioning, all the fluff, all the glamour, all the glitz. Like, what is it on a soul naked level that you want, and then aligning with that.
Yeah, I actually remember, I like to always tell stories. I remember probably towards the end of 2018, I was sitting on the couch with my husband, and I remember saying to him, and I was still, that was the last year I did network marketing. So I was still in network marketing then, and I hadn't even started my coaching business, but it was like rising in my soul. Like I knew what I was going to do, because what I had been doing all along, what I did in corporate, what I had been doing, with my network marketing team was building women up, empowering them, doing this work that I'm talking to you about. But I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to build a movement. And I remember sitting there saying to him, bawling, I just want to know myself. And I giggle now, but it was like this deep, deep desire to like know what it was that I really wanted, right? Because when I started as an entrepreneur, it was like, okay, I want to help women and I want to make money and I want to be with my kids. I didn't really know. It was kind of just stepping into, I don't want to be in the corporate cubicle where I hang the photos of my family and pretend I want to be here, because I don't. And I remember him saying, like, the world needs more of that. And I was like, okay, all right. And it was really just like, that's kind of how Soul Naked came to be. It was never like intended to be my brand. It was just, okay, here I am, like literally getting soul naked, peeling back the vows of silence that all the women in my life that came before me had like bestowed upon me. Like, here, you have to be, you have to be quiet. You have to be a good wife, a good mother. This is what you follow. This is what you do. And I was like, I am the first one breaking these chains. And that's kind of where Soul Naked came from,
I love that, because, something that I think that a lot of people who are watching this are going to really relate to is when you're going one way, and you have that success, the worldly success, what is what we should have, right? I hate when people should on you, but there's this idea of what we should have, and you were there. And then next thing you know, you go a different direction, which ends up being the stepping stone that leads you to where you are now.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but did you have people, I'm just going to ask this because someone out there's asking this in their mind right now. Yeah. But did you have people that when you were like, okay, I'm going to go this direction now, even though you were successful here, you were at a certain level, and then you're like, well, my real soul calling is this, now I'm going this way. Did you have people that go, why? You're crazy.
Yes, and I was the one that did that the most, which is the crazy part of the story, that even though I was the one that's like, okay, I give myself permission, I did that more than anybody else. I looked at myself and I was like, is something wrong with you? Like, why do you keep changing? You have a corporate job, you go back to school, then you start your business, then you're in network marketing, now you're coaching. So I think one of my greatest fears, truthfully, in that journey of getting soul naked was like standing there naked and having people be like, you did all these things. Do you even have any idea what you really want? Like, what are you actually bringing to the world? And very few people actually presented me with that question, truthfully. Mm-hmm. There was definitely some people in my company, but they were pretty gracious. I will be honest. I was very blessed. And I do think our energy often dictates the experiences that we have and the way people respond to us. But it was more me than it was anything else, like even if my husband thought it, he never really said it. He kind of just was always like, go, and I think at this point, my parents also, or my family, kind of know that like Erin does what she wants. So there wasn't much to say. That's a long answer to a short question.
I love it. And so I think that, a lot of people get to that point. A lot of people get to the point where they might even realize, like, I think I know what my soul calling is. I think I know what that is. And then there's that moment of, where you feel like that heart racing, your heart is racing, and that this is what you're called to do. And a lot of people get stuck in that part where they're like, okay, I see where I've been, and I'm so afraid to go back there, but I'm even more afraid to take the leap. You did what a lot of people don't do. So what would you say with all the knowledge you have now today, if you were to go back to the version of Erin right in that moment when you took that leap? Because I think that there's people who are watching right now that are feeling that right now. And they're feeling that pain and that terror of like, well, it's unknown and it's scary. What would you say to that person right now?
I think that I would say that every time you do something new, like it's always the first time. So think back to a time when you did something new. And then how did that become your new normal? Because this is reality. Like, this is what happens. You take the leap, and yes, it's scary, but I promise you, like, whatever is on the other side of that fear is magic. Whether it is your ultimate soul calling or not, like, who you become in the process will continue to guide you and lead you. And if you just let yourself go there, that will become your new normal. Like, that will become your new standard. That will become the version of you that you fully embrace once you take that step. And it is far, at least in my mind and in the way I process things and in my body, it is far, quote unquote, scarier to think what life would be like if I didn't say yes to myself. You know, like God, the universe, divine source, whatever you believe in, deeply, deeply wants to support you. But I promise that it requires that you go first. Like, you take that first step in faith. You take that first leap of like, I am scared shitless right now, but like, I'm going to trust. I am going to, like, it's like leaping. Like, I'm going to leap, and like the wind in my sails, I will be caught. I will be caught on the journey always.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I've heard you say that before about, you didn't know how you were going to do it. You just say yes. And then it's interesting because you say that your stubborn streak is a gift. Me too. I'm extremely stubborn, and it's worked out really well. But you say that a lot about how you're the type of person who just says yes and then you figure it out.
Yeah. Like, I don't know where I heard that or who said that to me or where that came to be, if I'm being completely honest, but in the back of my head, I'm always like, you say yes and then you figure it out.
Yes.
And I always say that to my husband. And it's really funny. Someone came to our door the other day. He has 2 businesses as well. And they're like, hey, I'm your neighbor, and I heard that you do this. And he looks, after he got done talking to them, he's like, I don't do that. And I also don't know how to do that. But I told her that I have all this stuff. And then in 2 weeks, we can schedule it. And he's like, in the next 2 weeks, I will figure out how. And I was like, I always tell you that, like, literally, you will figure it out. You say yes, and then you teach yourself. Like, and I think, and I won't say, I'm not sure if I can confidently say I was always like that. I kind of have always had like a weird, wild spirits, I guess, but I'm not sure in this capacity. So if someone's watching thinking, well, that's just not how I work, that's just not me, I think the greatest thing that holds us back is this idea of, well, this is who I've always been. I've always been the person to play it safe. I've always been the person that, analytically sits down and calculates A to Z. And if there's a bump in the road, I take a step back and stop letting yourself fall back into the trap of who I've always been. Like, you can choose in any moment to do one thing differently. And what I learned at a Tony Robbins event that has always stuck with me is that, like, the fastest way to change your identity is to do something the old you wouldn't do. One thing. Just start with one thing. You don't need to map out 10 things, one thing. And that'll just like flip a switch enough where, like, if you continue to follow that, life will change.
Yes, I love that, because we ultimately, we get to create who we want to be when the reality that we have. And we have a choice. We have such a choice. We have such a power of choice. So I love that message.
So true. We have the ability to create whatever it is that we desire by creating the version of us that has it. And that's where, I always go back to, like, it's not outside of you. It's always inside of you.
I love it. Such great advice from the Soul Naked CEO herself, Erin Nicole Call. And I know that you have a free offer you would like to offer for our listeners today. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So I have a free ebook that I believe Valerie has the link. I call it my Worthy Woman ebook. It's a 6-step manifestation guide to essentially creating the reality of your dreams. Whatever you apply it to, if you take the steps and you put your own little twist on them, you will step into the version of you that has the ability to create whatever it is that you want. And this is what I always hear, is I've taken like spiritual concepts and kind of like energetic metaphysic concepts or whatever, and I anchor them in. A lot of people have said it's very street spirit. Like, I anchor them into like tangible things that you can actually apply to your life now, to the process right now, wherever you're at. And it really doesn't matter the quote unquote level that you're at or the level of belief that you have, because you will apply the process and incrementally upgrade. And so you can use it at whatever level. And I think you're going to put the link in the comments, right? So I would love for you guys to, grab the ebook, tag me on Instagram if you want. If you use it and you feel led to, I would love to, hear from you.
Yes, and I know that people are going to want to follow you. Speaking of Instagram, so where can they find you?
Sure. You guys can find me on Instagram. I am at Soul Naked CEO. I'm primarily on Instagram. I'm always in Insta stories. And then I have a free Facebook community, the Soul Naked CEO as well, and erincallcoaching.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. It's been such a pleasure having you on here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I just love the dynamic conversations that happen between two women that see things so similarly in our own way.
I love it. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.